Yes, it is Tuesday, and we are live at 5 as Saul sees it. Today, I have my realtor from Texas. I have Jared, and Jared is going to share with us his tricks to the trade of how he grew his TikTok following to 100,000 plus people. That's ridiculous. Thank you, Jared, for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing good. Yeah. Thanks, Saul. Thanks for having me. And you're absolutely right. I was able to grow my TikTok following from 0 to 120,000 plus in a pretty short amount of time. So it's been a killer experience for me over here. Absolutely.
So if you do not follow Jared, if you go on TikTok and you see all those cool videos about what you can buy in Texas, in San Antonio, all those crazy, this is what you get for 400,000 in Texas. That's probably Jared's video, just so you guys know. And you might not know who he is, but he's the one that's doing all these crazy videos. So it's exciting to see that. So Jared, tell us a little bit about what you do and how TikTok's changed your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're definitely right. I think I'm probably one of the only people who are posting in that style. That hey, this is what $320,000 can get you in Texas. But really, for me, the idea came from walking around and seeing some of the new construction that was going on in the Texas area. As I'm sure you've seen and heard, and everybody's probably seen all over the news, Texas is booming. There's a lot of people moving to Texas, a lot of businesses moving to Texas, and the whole state is really, really growing, especially here in the Houston area. And so with that came a lot of new construction. And so when I first started walking around and seeing all the new construction, the difference between what a 2020 2021 home looks like compared to, say, a home that was built even as recent as the 90s is incredible. They're just building really beautiful homes now. And so I figure, you know what? What a better way to show Texas real estate than to film some of these really immaculate new construction homes that are relatively affordable. And so as I was doing this, I started filming some of these new constructions and initially started posting it on Instagram. And I had a lot of people DM me on Instagram and say, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. This is really, really cool. Where's this located? Can I get the details?" And that got me thinking, you know what? If I'm getting DMs from people in Texas who are really interested in seeing what I'm posting, I bet if I found a way to reach even more people, people from all over the country would be excited to see Texas real estate. And luckily, TikTok just kind of fell upon us in the last couple of years. And in today's world, 2021, TikTok is, in my opinion, the best way to reach as many people as possible for $0. One post can get all over the country, all over the world. It is
Yeah,
incredible.
it's insane. So, as most of you know, I just joined TikTok and I'm joining the fad. I don't like social media. I'm sorry, my tongue is blue. I actually had some candy earlier. I just realized my tongue is so blue. I'm like, that's
Yeah, no
awesome.
worries. Look how
No,
my
yeah,
whole face is red.
yeah,
So
you probably
it's the
outside
sun.
showing houses.
That's
So
exactly right.
I joined TikTok. Jared, tell us about that. Tell us about that the videos, how you grew it. Like, cause I mean, when did you hit? How fast did you hit 125,000 people? That's a lot. That's a big
It's a lot.
following.
It's a lot. So it came in stages. Actually, the first video I posted did 800,000 views from zero followers, completely organic. Posted one video, 800,000 views. That alone got me to about 10,000 followers in the first day. I'd say that's somewhat of an anomaly. But what I learned from that one post was something really, really interesting that I've tested and it's proven time and time again. And that is that TikTok videos do best when they are incredibly short, concise, and directly to the point. They need to be captivating in the first couple of seconds, and they can't drag on, and they probably should not be in multiple parts. So the first video I posted was very simple. I walked into a really, really beautiful home, and it had something crazy in the primary bedroom closet. The closet was 2 stories. I had never seen a 2-story closet
Wait,
before
wait,
in my
hold up.
life.
Two-story
Yeah,
closet?
it
I
was
can,
yeah, and I'd only ever seen something like this in the movie The Great Gatsby, where he's in this 2-story closet throwing clothes around. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Let me film this real quick. And really quick video, probably 4 seconds at most. I filmed the bathroom, and I panned over, and then I saw the closet, and I got a quick little, run around to the closet, and then I posted it to a trendy song that was pretty popular at the time, and it blew up. And the reason that it blew up was pretty simple. It was quick
It's
to
a
the point.
two-story closet. That's why.
It's a two-story closet. Yeah, exactly. So to make that very general, it captured people's attention. It was something that they hadn't seen or heard before, and they wanted to see more. They gave me the follow. And I think if you generalize what I've done, that's the simplest solution to growing on TikTok is, make them short and concise, give people a reason to follow, entice them, show them something interesting, and you're going to get those follows, those likes, and those views.
So one thing that I will, everyone that's out there on social media world and listen to this on Apple, Spotify, YouTube down the line, Jared actually will, if you say, hey, I want to see what $380,000 will buy you in Texas, he will literally go find a house and record this and show you, which is the neatest thing possible. I think that's marketing 101. And it was, when I saw that, I was like baffled. I will tell everyone that the reason you see my TikTok videos is now because of this guy. Because if you don't like him, blame Jared. It's Jared's fault.
I'll take the blame for it. Absolutely.
But it's a neat marketing idea where you say, hey, let's see what $380,000 can get you in Texas in certain towns. How did you come up with that portion of it? Because I mean, that's a job in itself.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So there's really two main reasons that I started doing that. The first one, I already had those comments coming in. I was showing homes that I would get a showing for a client, and I would go walk the home. And before the client got there, I would take a quick video and I'd post it on TikTok and say, hey, this is what $450,000 get you in Texas. And people would naturally comment, oh, hey, what does $280,000 get me? What does $2 million get me? And it got me thinking.
2 million gets you a lot in Texas.
It gets you a lot. It'll get you a castle, basically. But
there's no castle in Texas, but we'll build you one.
If you bring $2 million to Texas, you'll get a castle and a couple acres for sure.
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought, what's a good way to engage people from other states and to really show off Texas real estate, which was my purpose for getting on there. And, those two main reasons kind of married each other, and I ran with it. And luckily, TikTok's built for that. It allows you to reply to comments and engage with people. And I think it's a really rewarding way to build a following and get people to be interested in what you have to offer.
Nice. So you're a real estate agent. You went to college. What is your background in education? Give everyone a feedback. I know it, but give everyone the knowledge of Jared here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm wearing the university shirt here, Texas State University out in San Marcos, Texas, which is just south of Austin and just north of San Antonio. So it's going to be in the central Texas area. And in college, I studied finance and I had a concentration in real estate. And so what that meant was I had taken a couple classes on the residential real estate side, and I'd taken a couple classes on the commercial real estate side. And I found that at this point in my life, I really loved residential. And so obviously that's the direction that I went. And for me, the college experience has really helped in real estate. Obviously you don't have to have a college education to do real estate, but I definitely think it helps, especially having a background in finance. That helps a lot when, say I'm moving somebody from out of state and they're asking me like, what's the tax situation going to look like if I'm transferring from, California over to Texas? What is my tax liability going to look like in that scenario? With a finance background, that's something that I'm incredibly capable of answering. And from a competitive standpoint, I feel like that gives me a competitive edge over a lot of other agents in this market.
Well, yeah, I mean, just having that knowledge in the finance side definitely is going to help because you can answer these questions, right? So what is
exactly.
What's the one thing that when you're talking to someone like myself who's leaving California because we're tired of the tax and everything, what's the one question you see constantly happening over and over and over again where it's like this is the same question? Is it taxes? Is it in Texas, of course, is my house going to flood, which I learned right?
in Houston, definitely.
In Houston, right? But what's that one thing that you keep on hearing over and over and over again? That's the constant question. What's that one constant?
The constant one, that's an easy one. Why are the property taxes so high? I get that question more than any other question by a landslide. And I get that question from potential clients. I get that question from investors. And I get that question on TikTok nonstop. And if you're looking from an outside perspective, Texas taxes, property taxes, are one of the highest in the nation. And so rightfully so, people have questions about that. Of course, there's good reasons, and I'm sure you've got a couple questions to ask me about that as well. But there's good reason that the taxes are higher.
Well, there's no state tax, right? So they have
That's
to
a
they have
big
to generate revenue somehow.
exactly. That's the big one.
That's the big one. And honestly, when you look at, the tax, if you know what you're shopping for and you're trying to get the most bang for your buck by leaving California and going to Texas, one thing that I did look at was making sure that we didn't have the mud, tax on there, and trying to keep it as low as possible. It's not that bad. I mean, but I'm also used to California prices, so it's like,
Right.
Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a little misleading. A lot of people, especially on TikTok, these self-proclaimed, finance gurus on TikTok will say, "Oh, Texas is a lie." What they don't tell you is that $450,000 house has a 3.6% tax rate. So you're actually going to be spending way more money. And they are right, but they don't look enough into it. The tax rate might be 3.5%, but that's not necessarily what you're going to be paying. Texas knows that that's high, and
Yeah.
they offer you exemptions to get around that. One of those exemptions, for example, if you live inside of the house, you get what's called a homestead exemption. So that decreases the tax assessed value of your house. So you, in essence, pay less tax. As you get older, there's a senior tax exemption that, again, decreases the tax assessed value of your home. If you live on acreage, you could put a couple chickens out. You could put a couple goats out. You could put a cow out. And all of a sudden, you have an agriculture exemption.
So that means I can put a chicken in my backyard and get an agricultural.
Yes. It doesn't even have to be livestock. It can be
Right.
certain plants. Anything that is agriculture related. All of a sudden, you have an agriculture property, and you get tax benefits for that. So one thing that is probably a little bit different here in Texas is how we collect money for the municipal districts, which is what provides the water and the natural gas. So in certain regions, you're going to have what's called a mud tax. And you had mentioned this a minute ago.
Yeah.
The mud tax is one of the ones that gets you. That's what makes that 3.5% so high. There's a substantial mud, and mud stands for Municipal Utility District. And all that is it is a tax that's levied to repay a bond that was drawn to build out the infrastructure of an area. You can avoid a mud tax by simply going somewhere that doesn't have one. They're all over the place. I mean, you were able to find one, and that saves you a fortune.
Well, and it's funny because you talk about mud tax. You're like, are you charging me on mud? No, it's, everything comes with a price, right? I mean,
Yep.
You get more bang for your buck in Texas. That is true, right? For the same house that I just in the process of building, which Jared actually sent me a picture of my lot yesterday. They're still working on that.
Yeah, just the dirt.
Just the dirt. That same house here in San Diego, you're looking at $900,000, and it's just like doesn't make any sense. Where I can get that almost the same tax bracket that I have here in California with with my property taxes, no mud, right, which would be important. And then the second thing is we made sure that there was no flood issues, right? We don't want to have that flood insurance. So
exactly.
These are the things that you need to know. So if you're trying to leave the state to pursue other greener pastures, make sure you pay attention to that, right? I know, and I'm going to ask this, Jared, have sales gone down since this last crazy storm that Houston had a couple of weeks back where, it froze and it made headlines that there was no water, no gas, no electricity, all that fun stuff. Have sales gone down?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is no, absolutely not. We're actually still seeing a steady increase in sales month over month. And really that's, primarily based on interest rates. People are ready to get in. They want to beat the interest rates climbing. So they're trying to get in now. On TikTok, there have been a lot of questions and concerns about the building quality of homes in Texas. And you had mentioned, what are the popular questions that I get about moving to Texas and Texas real estate. And one of those questions is, why are the homes so cheap? Is it the building quality? The answer is no, it's not the building quality. They're cheap because the land is cheap, because we have an overabundance of land. We have a lot of space to grow. And so there's no reason that land prices should be climbing when you can just keep going further out from the city. there's almost unlimited land. Of course there's not unlimited land, but we're as
No,
close as you
there.
can pretty much get.
It's when you
Yeah.
when you can fit like 7 countries in the state of Texas by size landmass.
Yeah.
It's a big state. It's a big state. One thing I did learn is that when you're looking at the map and you're saying, "Oh, that doesn't look very far," it's that
It's
far.
far.
It's far. You're like, "Oh, that's
It's
like 10
far.
minutes." No, an
Yeah.
hour. It's like
Yeah.
what the hell just happened? But it is
10 minutes
that's
doesn't
yeah,
exist in
yeah.
Houston.
No, it doesn't.
10 minutes
Now,
is just down the road.
with this, right? I always trip out about. I mean, right now we're going through this process as now everyone knows this because I haven't said this out loud to anyone because we were making sure. But I am leaving California. I'm moving to Texas. We're building a custom house in Needville, which sounds like a Dr. Seuss city, but
It does.
but it's it's an amazing opportunity to do that. When you're looking at these changes and everything else, what is the one thing that you see as a fear for people leaving their state, their home state? Like, are they nervous? Are they anxious? What's that one thing? I mean, I know you work with lots of clients, so what's that one thing that
Yeah.
you see all the time?
So almost all of my clients are relocation, and a lot of that has to do with TikTok. I get a lot of people who reach out to me from TikTok, and they're interested in leaving their state, like you mentioned. And so that does put me in contact with a lot of people who do have concerns about moving here. I'd say the biggest concern is what they would perceive as a culture shock. So Texas in the media and in movies and on TV has this connotation of sort of being, Wild West, small town, backwards. It's a different country out here, and we're nothing like the rest of the U.S. And that's so far from the truth. Houston is one of the most culturally diverse cities in the nation. Austin is one of the most culturally and musically diverse cities in the nation as well. So, Texas is not what it looks like on TV. There's not tumbleweeds going down the road, and there's not people riding horses to school and stuff like that. Obviously those are the extreme examples, but I get questions along those lines. Yeah.
I will tell you this, that my cousin lives in Texas, Houston, and when I first went there last August, he had a horse tied to his tree in his neighbor's front yard, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I was like, no, there are horses, there are tumbleweeds everywhere, just so everyone's clear, but it's not the Wild Wild West, like you see.
It's not. No, it's not the Wild West. Actually, I was in Central Texas, and it's sort of a funny story. We were at a bar, and at this bar, there's a front porch, and the front porch has a fence. And so you're sitting on the front porch, and this fence is kind of blocking you off from the parking lot. And I'm looking over this fence, and this dude walks up, and he ties his horse right up to the fence in one of the parking spots. Dude just rolled up to a bar and parked his horse.
Now, my question: can you get a DUI on a horse? That's what I want to know. It's like, no, officer, I have not been drinking. My horse has, but I have not.
My horse has. Exactly. I don't know. That's a good one. Yeah. I'd like to see him try and pull you over on the horse. Actually,
right? Just keep on trotting. You're like, yeah. Officer, he doesn't want to stop. I don't know what.
I'm not driving. The horse has got a mind of its own. I don't know. Yeah, that's a big one. I get a lot of people who are worried about the culture shock. And I always reassure them, Texas is what you make of it. You want to go out to the Wild West? Yeah, we got some cities like that. You can go live in a small town and have that small town feel, but it's not going to be, an entirely different world. It's not uncultured. It's not technologically backwards. It's a leading state in the nation. We've got one of the largest industrial centers here. We're a major oil producer, so it's a booming infrastructure.
And then, with Elon Musk and Tesla, the battery in Austin, and then now he's opening SpaceX in Brownsville, dropping $30 million into the city. Probably that city. Yeah. I don't even think that city generates $30 million in revenue a year because it's a small little town, right? But he's giving $20 million for the infrastructure, $10 million for the schools, and that just tells you how big Texas can. The potential for Texas is huge, right? Unlike San Diego, you can't grow anymore, right? Texas is not, it's the opposite. Texas can keep growing and it's the sky's the limit. Now, the one thing that I will say that I was not privy to or aware of was all those toll roads. And explain to us why that is the case in Texas.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. Like any other infrastructure program, When you go to build a road, you take out a bond. The city will take out a bond, and they'll use the bond to pay to develop that road. In Texas, after that bond has developed the road, they want to pay back that bond by creating a toll road. Now, in Houston, definitely the majority of the major arteries going around and through the city are going to require a toll. Now, the tolls are not outrageous, couple bucks to go into the city. That's mainly to just recoup the revenue from that bond. To give you a short answer, I don't think anybody's really clear on why they don't stop charging tolls at some point, because there's been some toll roads that are just pushing 50 years.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
I would think, because there's no state taxes, they need those tolls to maintain those roads. I mean, it's really what it comes down to, right? You have to,
Exactly.
they need their maintenance, they need their touch-ups, they need, all these different things that most of us in California, we pay these outrageous taxes on our gas, and our roads still suck. And so it's like, at least over there, I mean, I didn't really see any roads that were out of shape or, anything else, because they're well maintained. That's one thing I
Yeah.
was kind of impressed with. So
Absolutely. The majority of the infrastructure is well maintained. And in Houston specifically, they've done a really good job. So Houston has 3 outer loops, and these outer loops can get you anywhere in the city in a very short amount of time. If you were to look at Houston on a map and take Rhode Island and put Rhode Island over top of Houston, it'd be about the same size. So top to bottom, it's just like literally driving top to bottom on Rhode Island is driving top to bottom on Houston. It's absolutely massive. So the way that they've done the infrastructure, just go look it up on Google Maps. It's really, really impressive. And to do that, like you said, there's no state income tax, so they have to pull it from somewhere. A portion of that is going to come from the property tax, of course. But when you go look at what that property tax is broken up into, very little of the property tax actually goes to the county or the city or the state. The majority of the property tax actually goes to the school district. So they do have to find ways to supply those roads with revenue to be constructed. Now, that said, your toll roads are located around the cities. They're not connecting other major cities. So if you drive from Houston to Austin, the main way is going to be 290, Highway 290. No toll there. So it's not like you're paying tolls to get around the entire state. It's just if you, for whatever reason, you need to go in or around the major cities.
yeah, and that's one thing that I noticed, and it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
I personally didn't mind it because guess what? Gas was still way cheaper than it was in California when I had the rental car. I mean, we put in a lot of miles in those couple of days in that rental car. It made me realize, like, holy crap, I can't believe this car is giving me 40 miles to the gallon where my truck only gives me 12 or 13. And I'm like excited when I get 16 and this thing's giving me 40. Nissan Versa. There you go.
And you needed that 40 miles an hour.
Oh, I needed that because we were all over the place. We were all over the place. But one thing, like if you're planning, what's the one thing that you're planning to make this change, right? I mean, Houston's a well-developed city. It's the 5th largest city in the nation. I saw at the airport that I think is like pretty much, I think it was 2/3 or something like that, 3/4 of the population from Houston are not from Houston. They're actually transplants from other countries, and they're for their first generation here. It's growing, right? So
absolutely.
The misconception with Texas, right, and us Californians looking in, looking outside from the outside in, we're like, oh, it's Hicks and this and that. But there's a lot to do in Texas. There is a lot.
There's a lot to do.
Amazed.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't even have a Topgolf in San Diego, and in Texas they had 3 of them. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
in Houston, like, there's
in
3 or 4,
3 of them, and I'm like, I don't even have one in San Diego. It just sucks.
Right.
But there is a lot to do, right? So what's the when you're looking at that, is there something for everyone in Houston? I mean, I know that's
100%.
Yeah.
So not even Houston. If you ask somebody from Texas, where'd you go on vacation this year? 9 out of 10 people will tell you they went somewhere within Texas, because Texas has so many different environments, so many different biomes. Most people don't vacation outside of the state. If you're going maybe to Mexico, you want to actually hit a pretty good beach, maybe then you leave the state. But as far as taking a vacation, you have so many different things to do. So you've got a variety of beaches in the Houston area. And then, of course, even further out from Houston, Corpus Christi, which is going to be just south of Central Texas. And then closer to the border, you're going to have some pretty nice beaches down there as well. Beaches are great. Houston is known for its lakes, really amazing lakes that are always a good time to put a boat out on. Austin obviously has Lake Travis, which is a huge tourist attraction. And when you look at the Texas Hill Country, I mean, it almost looks like you're not even in the U.S. It's absolutely beautiful. And, I encourage everybody, go Google Lake Travis or go Google the Oasis Austin and click images. And I think you'll be blown away by how different it looks than what most people have probably seen pictures of Texas looking like. And the Texas Hill Country is actually pretty well known. Well, it's a pretty well traveled wine destination. There's a lot of wineries out in the Hill Country. So, you're in Houston, you hit the lakes, you hit the beaches, you go to the Hill Country, you experience some really scenic views, you do wine tours, brewery tours, you go down to San Antonio and you get some really amazing history and Latin American flair that's in San Antonio. You go up to Dallas. Dallas is obviously known for being a very posh and oil money type city. So, obviously there's a lot of really, really big sports teams that are coming out of Dallas, great convention centers, a lot of business going on in Dallas. And those are going to be, your major cities. You can go up to Lubbock and you're pretty close to, Colorado, New Mexico. So you've got destinations there. Go even further out and you're going to hit national parks in Big Bend, which is, really West Texas. But as far as the different biomes go, yeah, there's a lot of different things to do in Texas.
So what pretty much is telling everyone is that you can go to Texas and not get bored, pretty much.
You will not get bored.
You will not get bored. There's something for you to do in Texas, right? I know I was talking to my cousin, and trying to figure out my jet ski situation here. Do I keep it? Do I leave it? All that fun stuff.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, we go out to this beach. And he's like, that's where we go out and shoot. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we go out there and shoot. No one's out there. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's probably never going to be me. But hey, it's not for everyone. It's just definitely not.
But it's an option.
So, yeah, it's an option.
Yeah.
If I want to go shoot, I just want. Or I can just go videotape them doing stupid stuff and post it on TikTok and then get TikTok famous,
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. But yeah, you nailed it there. Texas has something for everybody. So that's another misconception, is that it's going to be boring in Texas and there's nothing to do. That's so far from the truth. There's
and one of the misconceptions that I hear all the time with Texas is the weather sucks, right? And that could be true. I mean, I was there in August last year and it was raining. It was humid. It was, whatever. But at a certain point, your body gets used to that, right? You're used to it's just a normal thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And since Texas is so big, it's very regional too. So in the winter, Houston rarely gets snow. Obviously, this winter was the exception. But you go up to Lubbock or even just, 4 hours north of Houston is Dallas. You go to Dallas and you're going to get snow somewhat regularly in the winter. Down in Houston, it's going to be more humid than it would be in Austin. So, if you're not a fan of the humidity, you just go 3 hours to the west and no more humidity. It's that simple. So it depends on where you're at.
Or in my case, I just come back to California and just spend time with
exactly
my family.
Right.
That's like
that works.
I'm leaving. Yeah. It's my dad. This is the one true funny story. My dad was like, if this weather happens again, I'm not like, Mijo, why are you leaving? I'm like, he's like, if this weather happens all over, like, Dad, I'm gonna pay attention to the news. If they say this storm's coming in, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna turn off my water in my house, get all the water out of my pipes, and then get the hell out. And I'll be back in a couple of days.
Right.
It's like, just start leaving. I'll come back and kick it with you for a couple of days and I'll go right back. It's like, hey, right. I got an out. I can leave.
You do it. Yeah, you do what you got to do. And that might bring us into a perfect segue to talk about that winter storm. So I definitely want to reassure everybody that was a 122-year storm. So first time we've had weather like that in 122 years. Incredibly rare. Most of the country was experiencing pretty freezing temperatures. And I'm sure everybody saw that Texas homes looked like they were blowing up, pipes bursting everywhere, things bursting on fire. That was the extreme end of it. And of course, that's what you're going to see on the news because that's what's exciting and captivating.
That's what sells.
Yeah.
That's what sells.
That's what sells.
They got to sell the pandemic to you. That's the fear. The fear.
They're in the business of selling commercials and ad space, not in the business of presenting the news. So you got to keep that in mind. But no, that was the exception. Some homes obviously had pipes burst, but that's not the standard, of course. And then, of course, in the defense of those homes that did have pipes burst, they weren't equipped for it because, in 120 years, if you don't get hit with a storm like that, you're not going to prep your homes
Yeah,
for
you're not
a
going to
weather
plan for
event
that.
like that.
You
No,
don't
of course
plan for
not.
those things, right? It's one of those
Yeah.
things you don't see it. So it's like people from Texas would never prepare for like we do in California for earthquakes,
For an
right?
earthquake.
We all
Exactly.
have our earthquake evacuations. We have our, our go bags, all the fun stuff. And me personally, like where I live in San Diego, we have fires, right? So you have those go boxes where you're like, if you see the flames coming, this is the box we're taking, and then
Yeah.
screw everything else, right? So
Right.
it's you just got to adjust to those things. I mean,
Yeah.
I know, like you said, don't get deterred by that. I think Texas is a great opportunity for people to actually go out there and get the most bang for your buck. It's growing. And if you're looking to make that transition, you call my boy Jared. He'll hook you up with the houses.
Please do. Yeah,
He'll he'll he'll,
absolutely.
he'll definitely do that. So, Jared, I'd like to keep these to 30 minutes. We're at that mark right now. What is share with us? How they can find you on TikTok, social media. Put the word
Yeah,
out. How
absolutely. So you'll see my name up here, Jared Anger, at Jared Anger for all social media. You'll be able to find me. I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, my passion and my purpose on all social media is to share just how amazing Texas real estate is and the different opportunities it has for everyone. So thanks again for having me on. And I'm glad that I could share that with even more people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you being on there. I mean, I was one of those people that had that misconception up to a year ago where like, why would I want to leave California?
Of
And then after
course.
years
Yeah.
and years and years of paying these high taxes and these high gas prices, I mean, right now, gas, I believe for 91 octane is over $4 in most gas stations.
That's
And
crazy.
so that's insane, right? And you have crappy
Yeah.
ass roads and everything else. At least over there,
Not worth it.
there's always going to be a downside to everything, right? But
Right.
you have to look at the positive. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
make that transition, look at the positive because it is a better transition for people. So go out and check that out. If you're interested in making that move, reach out to Jared. He can help you find that house that you're looking for, your dream house. I mean, he was able.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how many houses we saw. I know
We
that
saw a handful.
we saw a handful, and I know that at the end of the day, did we pick any of the houses we saw? Nope.
No.
We went a complete different route. We're like,
Right.
we went in another route where
Yeah.
we didn't
Well,
even see that.
you built your dream home, and
Yes.
that's the option that Texas has that a lot of other states don't have is we still have land to build. You could just go from scratch, pick every part of the house that you want to be perfect. And, that's what you did. And I think that's a good opportunity for just about everybody.
Well, my whole thought process was if I'm going to move to Texas, I want to live in the house that, like I told you, I want to live in the pimped out house. I don't want to be
Exactly.
like in the, well,
You
I
want
moved to
something to show
Texas.
off.
I moved to
Exactly.
Texas and I'm still living in the same kind of house that I would live in California, So
Right.
if you're
What's the
going to do
motivation for
something,
moving?
there's
Yeah.
no motivation. There's nothing there. Yeah, you saving your money on taxes. Yes, you get more square footage. But if you're not going to be comfortable in the house that you're in, there is no point in making that move. Might as well stay in San Diego and not worry about it. But for me, it was like,
Yeah.
I want certain things. I want a 1-story house. I want 3,000 square feet. I need this. As Jared knows, I had certain requirements. My wife had certain requirements, and the kids had certain requirements, right? So my requirement was minimum
Exactly.
half an acre, 3-car garage. I didn't care after that. I was like, I'm good. And then everyone else's issues came in. So it's exciting.
Right.
We're definitely excited. I do appreciate you taking the time today to join us on As Saul Sees It. Thank you for helping with my journey to transferring from California to Texas.
It was my pleasure. It was a great experience.
It was an easy transition to do. So if you're, like I said, if you're interested in moving or finding out more about Texas real estate, call my boy Jared. He'll hook you up.
Yep.
Follow him on TikTok. Trust me, you'll like his videos. My wife is still laughing right now. The other day you posted a house and it had the wine prison.
Yeah.
She's like, I cannot believe you said wine prison. I was like, yeah. She still cracks up on that. She's like, I can't believe you said wine prison.
I like to add a little humor to some of the houses I'm showing. Yeah, no reason to be all business all the time. So
no,
I
would, as I'm seeing it, I'm like, dude, I could put a lot of bottles of tequila in that thing. And then you said,
that's the right idea right there.
And then she was like, he just said wine prison. I'm like, oh, I wasn't even paying attention to what he said. I was just like, oh, whatever.
You just saw it. You're like, that's a tequila prison.
Yeah, that's where I could put tequila at. Like
I locked the tequila.
I automatically went to how many bottles of tequila can I fit in there? Like, I can fit like 75 bottles. Like, yeah.
You count all the spots.
Yeah. And then she was like, he just said wine prison. I'm like, yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
So
it's a wine prison.
Yeah, it is. So, if like, for me personally, like I said, it was an easy transition for me to make that move to Texas. I've been thinking about it for a while. Make sure that when you're making these decisions, talk to a real estate agent that knows this stuff. Any state you're moving to, make those decisions. I know for me, my biggest thing was, the flood issues. And did this house have issues during the Hurricane Harvey, that's like the normal
That's the big one.
That's the big one, right? Everywhere I went to, I'm like, did this have problems with during Harvey? They're like, nope. That was a disclaimer from every builder that we looked at. It's like, no, we didn't have no problems with this. So
yeah, that's the equivalent. That's the hurricane equivalent to the winter storm.
Yeah.
So you'll start seeing that winter storm in there too. Like, did have problems, didn't have problems.
Yeah.
That's now the good standard to go by for insulation on the house, and Harvey's a good standard for weatherproofing your home. So, but before we wrap it up, I want to say, talking about the culture here in Texas, one of the most interesting things that not a lot of people know is that Texas has a huge German culture. For those of you who like drinking and like beer, there's a huge German cultural celebration that goes on in New Braunfels, which is just north of San Antonio, just south of Austin. And it's called
Braunfels. Is that where they do the tubing? Is that I saw that?
That huge river.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that river. Okay, that's where it was.
Incredible vacation spot. And they have a German festival that runs in November. It's the first week in November, usually until right up to the end of November. And it's called Wurstfest. And, that's a great cultural celebration that I think everybody in Texas should go out and be a part of and jump into the German culture a little bit, because it's not something that you get in a lot of other places in the U.S.
Well, because we've been making this transition, looking at places in Texas, and I keep on seeing these TikTok videos and different things like, okay, this is what you can do here. So I'm writing these things down. Like I'm sending it to my wife. I'm like, hey, we should go here. We'll do there, right? And then, of course, it took my son took the most convincing out of the four of us to make that transition. So I'm like, look, we can go tubing. And he's like, oh, all right. But, I will tell you the one concern that he had, and that this goes to everyone out there. His concern was, Dad, if we move, are we still going to root for the Padres? That's what his concern was. It's like, he's like, are we going to, because my uncle said I have to root for the Astros. And I'm like, no, we'll root for the Astros until they pay the Padres. And at that point, it's like game on. Like it's Padres, all the way. So we'll be out there.
Fair enough.
We'll be out there on the 27th, 28th, and 29th, checking out those games in the new stadium. Hopefully my Padres sweep, and then my cousin loses his bet, and he's got to go buy the loser of the series has to go buy the other team's jersey and wear that for a week. So
that's a good trade-off.
I'm not trying to buy no Astros jersey. So hopefully Tatis is back, and we'll make it a good series. So
yeah, we'll see. You might be rocking the Astros gear for.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the number 2 ranked team in the MLB. So we'll see how that happens. But like I said, thank you, Jared, for your time. Anyone, like I said, if you're trying to make the transition to Texas, feel free to reach out to him. You can find him on TikTok, social media, everything else, and go follow him with his videos, because you're going to see that you're going to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to Texas. So once again, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Next week, we'll have another episode as Saul sees it, live at 5. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Saul.
All right.